We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. Happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Man is by nature a political animal. The worst form of inequality is to try to make unequal things equal. The aim of art is to represent not the outward appearance of things, but their inward significance. To be conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the objects of consciousness. The only way to avoid criticism is to say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. The ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival. It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. Friendship is a single soul dwelling into bodies. The high-minded man must care more for the truth than for what people think. The educated differ from the uneducated, as much as the living differ from the dead. It is not enough to win a war. It is more important to organize the peace. All human actions have one or more of these 7 causes: chance, nature, compulsion, habit, reason, passion, and desire. Those who educate children well are more to be honored than parents, for these only gave life, those the art of living well. Quality is not an act, it is a habit. Hope is a waking dream. A friend to all is a friend to none. Happiness depends upon ourselves. The roots of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation for goodness. The worst thing about slavery is that it teaches slaves to accept their status. Criticism is something you can avoid by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. The wise man does not expose himself needlessly to danger, since there are few things for which he cares sufficiently. But he is willing, in great crises, to give even his life, knowing that under certain conditions it is not worth living. The difference between success and failure is a great team. Happiness is a state of activity. The end of labor is to gain leisure. Man is a goal-seeking animal. His life only has meaning if he is reaching out and striving for his goals. No great genius has ever existed without some degree of madness. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. The whole is more than the sum of its parts. All men by nature desire knowledge. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Those who are too smart to engage in politics are punished by being governed by those who are dumber. Dignity does not consist in possessing honors, but in deserving them. Friendship is essentially a partnership. He who is to be a good ruler must have first been ruled. The one exclusive sign of thorough knowledge is the power of teaching. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. The least initial deviation from the truth is multiplied later 1,000-fold. Law is mind without reason. Man perfected by society is the best of all animals. He is the most terrible of all when he lives without law and without justice. Democracy is when the indigent, and not the men of property, are the rulers. It is not once nor twice but times without number that the same ideas make their appearance in the world. The whole life of man is but a point of time, let us enjoy it. All who have meditated on the art of governing mankind have been convinced that the fate of empires depends on the education of youth. Those who know, do. Those that understand, teach. We become just by performing just actions, temperate by performing temperate actions, brave by performing brave actions. Education is the best provision for old age. The energy of the mind is the essence of life. In all things of nature there is something of the marvelous. Patience is bitter, but its fruit is sweet. All virtue is summed up in dealing justly. To write well, express yourself like the common people, but think like a wise man. It is not easy to determine the nature of music, or why anyone should have a knowledge of it. The aim of the wise is not to secure pleasure, but to avoid pain. Nature does nothing in vain. A true friend is one soul into bodies. Fear is pain arising from the anticipation of evil. A great city is not to be confounded with a populous one. We should behave to our friends as we would wish our friends to behave to us. It is not what we have that will make us happy. It's who we become and what we contribute that will give us fulfillment. Those who have knowledge don't predict. No one would choose a friendless existence on condition of having all the other things in the world. Nature does nothing without a purpose, or uselessly. The wise man speaks because he has something to say. The fool because he has to say something. To perceive is to suffer. There is no great genius without a mixture of madness. To run away from trouble is a form of cowardice. While it is true that the suicide braves death, and he does it not for some noble object, but to escape some ill. The educated differ from the uneducated as much as the living from the dead. The educated mind seeks truth, not victory. It is not always the same thing to be a good man and a good citizen. To be conscious of being, you need to reclaim consciousness from the mind. He who has overcome his fears will truly be free. Those who educate children well are more to be honored than they who produce them, for these only gave them life, those the art of living well.